What is the essence of mentorship and what does it mean to find a mentor?
A good mentor is someone who's approachable. Have you got access to the person that shared the knowledge with? I think as a young dentist, do your homework, check out the individual's reputation.
What is your vision?
One of the best ways of actually growing your brand, I think, is to really do beautiful dentistry.
Anything else you think that young dentists should get down to a T before they look towards these higher tier cases?
Communication skills are very important.
So what do you think is a red flag in a patient?
To look for people whose expectations may be too unrealistic.
What are protocols and why are they important?
Protocols systemize things. If you follow all the rules and the steps properly and take your time, do the most amazing job you can, at some point in everyone's career, you will be faced with a challenge or challenges. The one thing I tell young dentists is don't get emotionally involved with your treatment.
What was it like for you the first time you went through that process or when the first time you maybe got a challenge?
It's scary. You naturally feel vulnerable.
Today we're joined by a true pioneer and a titan of British dentistry, Dr. Ash Parmar. If you were watching TV in the mid-2000s, you've probably seen his work. As one of the lead dentists on the hit show Extreme Makeover UK, Ash was the man who brought high-end cosmetic dentistry into the living rooms of millions. With over 34 years of clinical experience, he's a dentist to dentists. A clinician so respected that other professionals trust him with their own smiles. From qualifying at Guy's in 91 to building a multi-practice empire and eventually founding the world-class Smile Design by Ash and the Academy by Ash, his journey is the ultimate blueprint for career longevity. But it wasn't always a straight line to the top. Ash opens up about his light bulb moment with Larry Rosenthal, the years spent flying back and forth to the US to seek out the world's best mentors, and the reality of navigating one of the most litigious dental landscapes in the world. In this masterclass of an episode, we dive deep into the essence of mentorship, the high-level clinical protocols that separate the good from the excellent, and the 6-step process to ethical selling that every young dentist needs to master, and why he believes that 80% of your success in this game comes down to your mindset and your spirituality. Whether you're an associate looking to increase your case acceptance or a student wondering how to build a world-class brand, Ash is about to show you exactly how it's done. Let's get into it.
So Ash, absolute pleasure to have you with us today. Can you tell our audience who might not know about you, who you are and your journey to the point of today?
Hi. Firstly, thank you so much for having me here today, guys. It's an honor and a pleasure. So my name is Dr. Ash Parmar. I'm a dentist. I qualified at Guy's Hospital in 91. And it's been a long journey. I've been in practice for about 35 years. And so what happened is I qualified, then I did my vocational training foundation year, and then going to practice quickly, and I went into partnership, and me and my partner, we slowly bought 1, then 2, then 3 practices. So we bought an existing practice, we set up a squat practice, so we had experience for both ways. And the turning point for me in my career when going into cosmetic dentistry was a guy called Larry Rosenthal. He's one of the best cosmetic dentists at that time in the world, and he did a very inspirational one-day seminar with FMC. And I remember that day was like a light bulb moment. He instilled passion in me, and I thought, this is what I want to do, change people's lives and make them smile. So through that process, then we started teaching and training when we had more knowledge. And we also went to America a lot. We used to go to the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. Every year we went to the annual conferences and different parts of America, and we learnt and followed the best clinicians and business coaches in the world, and they became our mentors. So back and forth to America, and then gradually moving forward. At some point we amicably separated from the partnership, and then for the last 15 years we've run our own practice called Smile Design by Ash in Chigwell in Essex.
Awesome. And you mentioned the US, right, Ash? Back when you were, doing the education 20 years or so ago, US was by far the leading, provider of that postgraduate training for cosmetic purposes.
Yeah.
How do you think that shifted to today? Where do you think that best, top quality, world-class education can be found now?
Good question. So for me, I think it was always about finding the best mentors and the best teachers. And at that time, definitely America was ahead of us. But over the years now, with the progress in the UK, things have caught up. I mean, there are a lot of good mentors and dental educators here now. There's a lot of good academies of dentistry here as well now. So you don't have to keep going back and forth to America. With also online education, some of the best American teachers have got sort of material you can get online as well. So, the world's become a smaller place. But at that time, I do remember that to become the best, you had to seek out, and these guys were in America.
So America was a place to be. Cool.
Yeah. On the point of mentors there, because I know that's one thing that you're really big about as well. You mentioned how obviously in the US there was more mentors there or better mentors there, and as the UK has developed and we've got more advanced in that case, also the level of mentorships increased. But what about, I mean, that's a given, right, in terms of the expertise. I mean, talk to us a bit more about mentorship. What is the essence of mentorship, and what does it mean to find a mentor?
Good. A good mentor is someone who's approachable. Okay, so it's not just about going on a course and learning some stuff, paying the fee for it, and then when you go back to your own practice as a young dentist, you sometimes have struggles, or which materials do I use, or what's the technique, or maybe you need your handheld for the first case you do. So have you got access to the person that shared the knowledge with you? That's the first important question. The secondly is the actual knowledge, the expertise and the experience and the reputation of that person. You see, so there are a lot of people doing dental training and education, but I think as a young dentist, do your homework, check out the individual's reputation and how long they've been doing dentistry for, and what people say about that person. So I think you should be able to approach the person, have advice if and when you need it. And also, there's an art in training and teaching, you see. You can make a complex subject like occlusion become easier to understand if you can actually deliver it in that way, yeah? So that's another important thing. And learn from the best. That's my big advice, is that, if you want to have a fast track approach to success, then seek out the best. And some learning can be done online, but truly the best way to learn is hands-on and really support from good clinicians and wet finger dentistry and stuff that you can't really learn in books at uni and stuff like that. This is where you really learn from good clinicians, yeah?
Understood. So Ash, when you were younger, in your 20s, coming out of university, what would you say the main challenges were in that climate and the biggest adversities you had to overcome as a young clinician?
Okay, so life in them days I feel was simpler. Okay, I had my degree paid for. Then there was no charge for becoming training. We used to have a grant from the government, so I had £3,000 or £4,000. I could go on holiday.
Was it as competitive to get into dentistry?
It was less competitive. I remember we had about 55, 60 people get in. My A-level offer was B and 2 Cs.
Wow.
So I got 2 A's and a B, so I got in. Okay. But yeah, so there was less pressure, I think, on youngsters to get into dental school. It was less competitive from that point of view. For me at that point it was a 4-year degree. A couple of years I stayed at home, and then later on I lived out. Initially I was more introverted as an individual, and so yeah, I mean I had to learn how to socialize and mix and do all these things that are part of uni life and growing together. And it was a difference, I mean when you're at school you got a lot of support. When you're at uni it's a lot tougher. I remember our first year was intensive. It was tougher than A-levels. We did general anatomy, dental anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, so much in 1 year. And we actually had to go to lectures. Whereas my daughter's just qualified as dentists and they've learned everything on iPad and stuff like that. So since COVID, times have changed, So I think it was a lot tougher becoming dentists. We had more expectations. Our quotas were higher. We had to do more clinical work. We had to make our own crowns and bridges. And we had to make our dentures. So I think it sort of was more intensive, the training, and in a way I think that was better. I mean that's my overall thoughts.
Understood. So more hands-on elements.
Yeah.
Easy to get in, but also free of charge, and even a grant given to you. I wouldn't mind that in today's age.
These days, unfortunately, undergraduates come out with debts and stuff, and it is tough. It is tougher, yeah.
Yeah, there's something we always talk about, and with a lot of the guests this comes up, in terms of the concept of the gap, right? It's the gap between dental school and actually practicing. And I'm guessing the challenges of dentistry, and you can attest to this, has changed as time's gone on, as the profession's developed. But I'm also guessing that certain challenges would have stayed the same, over your years of mentorship, over your years of actually coming out and learning to be a good clinician yourself. How have you seen that gap change over time? How have you seen it evolve? What stayed the same, and what's actually new challenges that clinicians might face today?
Yeah. So I think one of the challenges these days is undergraduates tend to come out without much clinical experience. So I don't know whether there's shortage of patients or the curriculum. I mean, it's been a long while since I trained, so that can be a challenge, because you may be academically very good and have all the knowledge, but when you go out in the real world, you've got to handle people and situations and complaints and how to communicate and the art of selling. And I don't know how some of these things, if they're coached or trained or not. I think doing the foundation year is very good and very important. So you get a broader experience, even doing a lot of work on the NHS. But ultimately, I think aiming for the private sector is something that's good, and you'll find you get the most rewarding sort of aspect of dentistry from that, in terms of the quality of the work you do, the type of work you might want to do, and spending more time with your patients. So I think doing foundation year is good, getting a broad experience over a few years before you home in and decide which area of dentistry you really want to become passionate about or really intrigues you and makes you fulfilled. Then you can specialize or go and learn more about that stuff. Yeah.
Interesting. So, because I picked up on something there you mentioned as well, where being able to then train and then go private, and then also being able to. And everything you mentioned there was actually more towards the clinical side of things.
Yeah.
Being able to provide better care for your patients,
Yeah.
being able to have more time for your patients, get the best materials, that sort of thing. Which is interesting, because a lot of young dentists actually don't understand the clinical implications of working private, as opposed to, everyone does a financial aspect and that sort of thing. Could you talk to us more about what it's like to actually do high-level clinical work, and can you do high-level clinical in NHS? Does it have to be private? Or what is it like?
Okay. My first interview, guys, was with this dentist in Romford in Essex. And I remember the one caption he taught me, which has stuck with me all my life. So I'm sat at the interview, and he said to me, gave me some advice on that interview. He said, "Look, Ash, the advice I have for you is that whatever you do in life, whatever procedure you do each step really well." So for example, if you're doing an amalgam filling, right, you remove the decay very carefully and nicely. You give local first properly. Then once it's cleaned out, you put the matrix band on properly, put the wedge in, burnish the contact area, pack the amalgam in properly, shape it, polish it, check the occlusion. Every step you do it properly, that gives you success and longevity. So for me, I don't look at patients with a label on their head saying NHS or Dentplan or private. These are human beings. And what I found in my experience is that when it comes to healthcare, because unfortunately on the NHS system, you're not given much time, you then don't have the opportunity to actually explain to people their options or take some photographs and co-discover and show them, what's possible or what's better for them. Because given options, if there's a mum and a child is ill, they'll do everything in their power to make sure they get the best medical care for that child to get them right. And dental health is no different. I think it's all about mindset. You have to really think about looking after people, doing what's in their best interest, being ethical, and then trying to provide the best care. So yes, even on the NHS, I would spend a little bit more time. Even if you've got pressure from your receptionist, do quick checkups, spend longer, have a chat, and get to know the person, build a relationship. And then you'll be really amazed as to how much more private uptake they'll take, even though they're an NHS patient.
To be devil's advocate there, and you kind of mentioned there as well, wouldn't then NHS dentists come back and say, well, I'm not completing as many UDAs, I'm not hitting my targets?
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
Look, I've been fortunate, I've been private all my career, so I don't really have much experience on the NHS system. But the problem with UDAs is that you're just chasing a unit of dental activity, you're just knocking out the procedures just to achieve a target. And I don't believe fundamentally in my heart that that's the profession we're in. We're there to care for people. If someone wants amazing looking smile, then you can offer high-end cosmetic dentistry, and that's what it's all about. It's not about UDA. So I think I go back to the same point. It's about the fundamentals of what you really want. I think one of my biggest mentors in my career was a coach called Bill Blatchford. And the first important thing he taught us was vision. You clearly define what you are, who do you want to treat, and the type of work you want to do. You see, you've got to answer these fundamental questions. And I've got friends who qualified with me and have been still doing NHS dentistry in busy practices. So, but if they're happy where they are, then there's nothing wrong with that, you see. But I think individually you go through a journey and decide, which type of work you want to do and the quality of treatment. There's a market for everyone. Like clothes, you buy expensive clothes or you buy basic thing, there's a market for everyone.
Very interesting. So you mentioned the vision, right? And it comes very smoothly onto another point you wanted to raise, which is about how do you market yourself in a brand? And crucially off the back of that, what is your vision and what do you want to be known for, Ash?
Good question. So branding, marketing is a huge topic. I've been fortunate that over my career, I've actually done almost everything in marketing you could do. Okay, so we've been on sort of national TV, we've done radio, we've done magazines. Social media is an important thing these days. Business networking groups. But one of the best ways of actually growing your brand, I think, is to really do beautiful dentistry. If you can create smiles that are amazing and create patients who are really happy because of the customer experience, as in, it's about how you make people feel rather than just churning out a bit of dentistry, And through that experience, people will rave about you. So the word of mouth is the biggest and best way of getting patients.
It's not what you do, it's not what you do that the patient remembers, it's how you made them feel.
Yes. There's a famous saying, and I love that saying, but that is so important. So I think doing good quality dentistry, being authentic, being professional in everything you do, showing attention to detail, taking your time, these are basic elements which are important under the marketing umbrella. The way your practice looks. I mean, if you're a young associate and you're working in a sort of say basic practice, there's nothing stopping you coming in the weekend, painting your room, right? Getting a few nice plants and things like you've done here, aesthetically improving your place, having some nice aromatherapy going on, having a picture of your family there, creating an ambience. So even if your patient that comes in that there was an emergency from your principal, they'll walk into your room, they'll think this is different, right? And you do the first painless extraction or something for them, they'll say, I'm going to stay with you from now on in.
I want to dive into that a bit more because you mentioned a few things that were I find really interesting in that when you typically think about the patient experience, right, you think about, okay, how do you treat the patient, communication and, answering the question, active listening, body language. That's what we're taught, right?
Yeah.
But then now what you're mentioning is literally everything else, like even to the scent, even to how the walls look. I mean, do you have any other specific things that maybe you've tried or you teach your students that can actually help boost that as well?
Absolutely. One of the things you need to learn as a young dentist is the art of communication and ethical selling. The best way to sell is ethically. Now, to achieve this, guys, you have to focus on the right side of the brain. The brain has two sides, the left side and the right side. The right side of the brain is an emotional side of the brain. The left side of the brain is the logical side of the brain. All buying decisions are made on the right side of the brain. Okay? So whether you're buying a £1 million practice, you're buying a brand new Ferrari, you're buying a Armani dress for your 21st birthday, you're buying a £10,000 smile with veneers, everything is done emotionally on the right side of the brain. So the mentor I had read over 200 books on selling, and the book that I've been using is called Integrity Selling for the 21st Century by an author called Ron Willingham. And this book is really the essence or the Bible of how to sell ethically. And if you embrace this concept, you will come across very smooth and nicely, but in a very ethical way. So apart from that, another slogan I love is everything matters. So if you go to a nice restaurant and you have a beautiful experience, it will be the lighting. Lighting is so important. It will be the aroma, like we mentioned. It will be the smiling waiter and the customer service you're getting. It will be the quality of the food and what you enjoy. So in dentistry is no difference. It's the little touches that matter. If you go to a washroom and you got molten brown soap there and all these little touches, people will see the difference. They got no idea which burrs you're using or which lab you're using, but they'll sense and pick up all the other little things that are going on around you.
Ethical selling. Interesting, because I feel that, and this is something that a lot of people have said, is that there's a stigma around sales and healthcare, right?
Yeah.
And naturally, you can think about why, but what is ethical selling when it comes to dentistry?
Okay, so like it or not, we are all in the process of selling every day. We're being sold to every day. If you look at Instagram, social media, TV, thousands of messages coming to us selling us products and things. And if you want to become successful in dentistry, like it or not, you're going to have to become a good salesperson. Okay? So there are 6 basic elements to ethical selling. The first is what I call approach. In this approach stage, you have to build a relationship. So when a new patient comes, do not dive into just saying, how can I help you? You first find out some social history facts, build up a rapport. The second stage is the interview stage. There's about 8 or 9 power questions I ask, focusing on the right side of the brain, which really emotionally engages the patient and gets to the root core of why they want something.
Can you use one of those? Huh? Can you use one of those?
Right. So the questions here are, firstly, you could ask a general question like, how can I help you? Then you say to them, so say if someone's got goofy teeth and they're sticking out, whatever, they're really embarrassed to smile and won't even smile in photographs. So the second question you got to say is, how long has this been bothering you? So then they may say, okay, you know what, when I was young at school, I was bullied and I didn't like that, right? So then there's something called the emotional pain funnel. And if you can take them down this emotional pain funnel and almost bring them to tears, they're gonna emotionally buy a bigger treatment plan quicker. So then you take them in that mood, or when they're at school, then you can say, okay, how did that make you feel at that time? So you're focusing on questions which are engaging the right side of the brain. How long has this been bothering you? How does this affect you day to day? On a scale of 0 to 10, what mark out of 10 would you give your smile? If someone's getting married, the same lady, if they're getting married in 3 months' time, you could say, if you're going down the wedding aisle with your dad and, all your best family and friends are there, how's it going to make you feel if you're not going to be smiling? Can you see the way I'm questioning? Yeah. It's emotional. Yeah? You're not talking about veneers or anything like that. You're talking about... And then, so these are sort of questions. So approach, interview, the third step. So once you really understand what they want and need, then you talk about, then the third step is demonstrate. They then want to see a solution or product. What is it that you can offer them? Okay? And then the next step, the fourth step, is something which we call validate or validation. So they're going to say to you, okay, I can go down the road and pay £500 a crown over here. I'm coming to you, I'm paying 1,100. Why? Value. Prove it to me that the value I'm getting is good for you. Yeah. And then the next step is what we call negotiate, or this doesn't mean haggle for a price or anything like that. What this really means is overcome objections. So in the buying process, there's sometimes a couple of things you want clarified, like how long is this going to take to do? Is this going to hurt me? How long will these things last? And you need to overcome their objections before you come to the sixth and final step, which is the close. At some point they'll say, okay, I'm really excited. When can we get this done? Then close the deal, get on it, propose, and let's book the appointments in.
This is very interesting to me because I actually have a background in sales myself. And exactly what you mentioned is the sales process, right? Is using emotions and to be able to... And the crucial thing is, one of my mentors actually mentioned this to me, who's in sales, and he said that as someone who's selling something, once you believe in what you're selling, you're almost... all you're doing is you're showing or you're exposing the need for something. You're helping them down that path emotionally. And one key element to that, and what I've found and what I've heard a lot of people who are very good at sales say, is that being seen as almost like an advisor rather than you're selling someone.
100%.
What's your opinion on that, and how do you actually go about doing that?
This is really important. There's a amazing dentist, one of my mentors 30 plus years ago, who passed away, and his name was Colin Hall Dexter. So the first course I went on where I learned a little bit about private dentistry was with this guy, okay? And the term I learned that day was called co-discovery. So that's exactly what you're saying. So these days you could take some pictures of someone, you could take a 3D scan, and then you can ask the patient, what do you think about this? What do you like, what don't you like? You're now 55, you've got all these tartar and loose teeth, everything. How does that make you feel about the future? If you lost these teeth, where do you see yourself with a plastic denture in your mouth if you can't? So you're not like selling anything, you're just showing them what's going on in the mouth, letting them own their problems, because really now I can't tell what your mouth's like, and nor can you tell what my mouth's like. But if I blow up the pictures on a big screen and you see all that stuff that's going on in there, it's shocking sometimes to them, you see? And then they'll quickly opt in for treatment. So you're absolutely correct. It's about advising, being authentic, So I mean, where I'm in Essex, okay, there's a lot of affluence, there's people come in who want nice smiles and whatever, but you got to learn to say no as well. Someone could be walking with a Louis Vuitton handbag and say she wants veneers, and she just had all these lip fillers done. So I'm going to go back to her and say, look, you've had so much lip filler that now you can't see your teeth. So it's not my problem. I can't fix your teeth because you can't see anything. Do you understand? So you got to be very real about this and give people good advice. And it's often a good thing to say no to someone. If in your heart, if that's your sister or your family member, you wouldn't do that treatment, then don't do it.
I see. So that's very interesting, Ash, because you talk about choosing the right patients.
Yeah.
So what do you think is a red flag in a patient?
Look, guys, after 35 years of doing this, you can imagine how many red flags I've had. Okay. So there's a certain category of patients, especially with social media these days, guys. And everyone wants to look a certain way or perfection, and in reality, it's not that way. So there's something called polymorphic dysmorphia, where, say, a young woman or whoever comes into you, they won't be happy with the end result. So sometimes you could say, okay, I'll do your composite bonding, or I'll do your porcelain veneers. And really, if you look a bit deeper, they've got other issues in life and they've got other upsets. And if things go wrong, they're going to take it out on you as the dentist. And then you will either have to give a full refund, or they'll pick up the phone and phone the GDC. So at the end of the day, it's important to look for people whose expectations may be too unrealistic. And also you have to be true to yourself. Start with simpler cases. If you've just done a course on something and you want to start doing composite veneers, then pick someone who's a nice person, who's got realistic expectations, not very nice teeth. Don't take on someone who's very good looking and who's got a pretty good smile already, and they just want you to make it better with veneers. It's a challenge.
Understood. So you mentioned the dental legals briefly, Ash, right? What do you think of the dental legal landscape for young dentists nowadays?
Okay, so my understanding is that the UK, we're one of the most litigation type of dental situation anywhere in the world, and it's really tough because even if you're NHS or private, either way, you got equal chance of getting into trouble. Yeah, I know people who've been struck off because of just a simple NHS mistake, and they can't even walk into their practice for 5 years. And it's not just about doing big cases and implants where you get into trouble, you see?
It's career gone at that point.
Yeah, so I think the way to overcome this is to just be very very precise in your discussions with your patient, document things really well, take photographs, have good informed consents, do the right thing. If something goes wrong, put it right rather than start to have an argument with the patient, and get advice from dental legal people if there is an issue. But at some point in everyone's career, you will be faced with a challenge or challenges. And I think you have to become strong internally to be able to handle this and not worry about it. It's not good to, the one thing I tell young dentists is don't get emotionally involved with your treatment. So what I mean by that, for example, if you do a porcelain veneers course and you do your first set of veneers, 4 veneers, right? And then a month later, one of them breaks off or chips. Now, as a young dentist, you feel bad, okay? You'll think, you know what, I've done something wrong here, or I don't want to do this type of treatment anymore. So don't give up, because life's a learning curve. You learn from mistakes, you understand? It's not just about feeling scared or worried. So I think have good mentors, have good protocols. These days at uni, I know the diagnostic aspects and documentation, they're teaching you very thoroughly. So implement all these things in your clinical practice.
100%. And on that point as well, kind of almost, actually I wanted to ask you something. What was it like for you the first time you went through that process, or when the first time you maybe got a challenge?
It's scary. So, you naturally feel vulnerable. But then, immediately, I mean, for me, I had a partner, a dental partner, so business partner. So it's always great. We were like brothers. We could talk to each other. So the first point of call is, talk to your friends or peers. I've got this situation. What do you think about how I should handle it or what I could do? Then you got your indemnity provider, they're very helpful. So make the phone call very quickly and get some advice. But I think you need to get some communication back to the patient. Just say, look, I apologize for the way you feel about this. You know, we're looking into this. You're more than welcome to come in and have a face-to-face chat with me, or I'll be coming back to you within, 7 days or something. You know, get some breathing time. Don't just, there's no knee-jerk reaction you don't need. You don't need to feel angry, you don't need to feel upset. Don't feel that you've done something bad. It's just a fact of life. You're going to get the odd complaint here and there. Just start becoming strong mentally so you can deal with it.
Understood. So Ash, you've been a clinician now for over 30 years. Some of your patients, I'm sure you've seen many points throughout that journey. How do you treatment plan and view patients with that long-term mindset of them having treatment in the last decades or years?
Good question. So for me, it's all about creating beautiful smiles which are long-lasting. That's what gives you credibility, that's what builds your reputation. So this comes initially with having a very detailed initial protocol for dental assessment. So for example, the way I assess my sort of wear cases or someone needs a lot of implants or cosmetic cases is there's about 1.5 to 2 hour assessment document I have, which is about 25 pages long. This is probably the most detailed protocol in the UK right now. Okay, we go through everything. The muscles of mastication, TMJ, occlusion, aesthetic parameters, oral cancer screen, periodontal, everything. So that's the cornerstone of success, I think, is to have that command of being able to do a good detailed assessment like this. From the assessment, and you've collected diagnostic data, you can then sit down quietly on your own and do treatment planning. And the essence of this is to listen to the patient carefully, do what they want, start with some of the important things that they want, but start dealing with the health first. You know, if some bad teeth need coming out, take them out. If you need decay advice and prevention, do that. Hygienist visits, however many, just to get it all right. You know, build on a solid foundation. Don't just jump into cosmetic work. And then use excellent materials, because if you use the best quality materials, then the outcomes are the best. Use fantastic laboratories. So if you want really Instagram hot pictures and before and afters, you need to use good laboratories, guys. You pay more, but then you charge the patient more. And then occlusion is a really massive, important subject. At the end, whether you're doing one filling or a 3-unit bridge or delivering whole mouth dentistry, get the occlusion really good, get it comfortable. And something that I'm passionate about is digital occlusion, something called T-scan. And this is really something that will give very good long-lasting results, because you can get the precision adjustments made in the mouth, which articulating papers alone cannot do.
Interesting. Tell us more about T-scans. What are they? I've not heard of this.
T-scans are relatively big in America, but only a handful of dentists in the UK have it. My mentor in this is a guy called Robert Kirstein, and Robert's a very eminent dentist, probably the best occlusion teacher in the world, in my opinion. So he's done a lot of scientific research. There are 3 big volumes this thick of scientific materials, and he's been working with this company called TechScan, and it's basically a computer sensor. And this measures 2 things, the force of the occlusal contacts and the timing of the occlusal contacts. So if you just dry the teeth and put some paper, I take them maybe just a tap, 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 you'll have blue marks there. None of us can tell which of those blue marks is a higher force. Whereas with this software, it will show up graphically in 2D and 3D where the higher forces are. So it's almost like your sat nav telling you then where to mark up with papers and then which mark to adjust. Do you understand?
Yes.
So it's the forces you're measuring. And then the second thing that papers alone cannot measure is the timing of the occlusal contacts.
And why does that matter?
Why does that matter? Because the earlier contacts need to be adjusted and dealt with first, so that you got harmonious, simultaneous contacts coming together nicely. So you need balanced occlusion. You need occlusion that's even, but things meeting evenly and nicely, and it's all about timing of the contacts that's important.
Very interesting.
So this is really a huge topic which very few dentists in the UK know about. Everyone's into the digital dentistry journey, but 99% of dentists are not finishing the case digitally because they don't know about this T-scan.
Yeah, that's something actually to throw back to one of my lectures I had recently, where occlusion, I'm guessing you probably get this a lot, or you may not, where obviously with your courses, people come along expecting, okay, well, we're going to learn veneers and all this stuff. But now what you're saying is actually the most important thing is the functional dentistry, is the occlusion as well. Is that something that you see nowadays is improving, or what would you recommend to a dentist who's going in, who wants to learn more about actually how to take on these treatment plans, but they need to learn the functional side first?
Yeah. In America, there's about 3 or 4 camps of occlusion training, okay? And unfortunately, they have slightly different philosophies. So whether it's ego or brand name, whatever, they want to teach things their way, okay? So the first problem is that it's a confusing subject matter. The second thing is that the teaching around this can be conflicting. So therefore, when you learn about occlusion, you want someone to teach you that really, really understands it and has done treatment over a long period of time, and they can make it simple to understand. Okay, that's the key thing. I can give you a book this thick, but if you get confused at the end of reading that, what's the point of thing? You know you can do big cases, right? The second thing is changing the knowledge into practical work. If you've got someone with tooth wear and you're going to open up the bite, how are you going to treat that? How are you going to sort the bite out? And that comes hand in hand with confidence. Do you understand? Sometimes you have to go beyond what you feel comfortable with if you want to make progress. Otherwise, you'll be left in the realms of just doing 1 or 2 fillings and that type of single tooth dentistry. So functional dentistry is very important, and whatever type of dentistry you want to go into, whether it's implants or cosmetic dentistry or composite bonding, people are going to be paying a lot of money for this. And at the end of the day, they're going to want to make things last. Because if things start breaking, then repeat dentistry or putting things right is going to cost you more time. You're going to have to do it for free. There'll be more lab fees, patients being disgruntled. It's not a practice builder. So no matter what field you get into, you better become very good at occlusion.
Understood. What other foundations should you lay in that bedrock, Ash? That's a very good useful nugget of knowledge, because occlusion should master. Anything else you think that young dentists should get down to a T before they look towards these higher tier cases?
I think communication skills are very important. So I'm sometimes still surprised when I ask dentists, do you know about the disc profile system? And they're not familiar with the different personality types. Because once you understand that there's 4 fundamental personality types, and we're all a combination of about 2 of them, you then have to adapt your way of talking to that person and the way you explain things and the amount of time it's going to take you to sit down and understand that person and explain things. So communication is a big topic, which if you want to become successful, then you need to delve deeper into that. And maybe this is not taught as well as an undergraduate. So that's something important. Photography is so important. These days, actually I see beautiful photography even by younger dentists. So really this is, when I was younger like you guys, our photography was very poor. We didn't have as good cameras. Our techniques weren't as good. So I'm really pleased that dentists these days take pride in their work and take good photographs, because you're going to need this for your before and afters on social media. You're going to need it for marketing reasons. You're going to need it for publication, if you write an article, if you want to present, if you want to show anything. Pictures are so important. So I think a young dentist coming out should be good at communication, good at photography, start doing some general dentistry, and then quickly home in which area you like, and then go for it.
Very interesting. So Ash, you're known for one main thing above all else, right, which is porcelain veneers. Talk to us about that.
Okay, so porcelain veneers, like I said, Larry Rosenthal is the name I mentioned earlier on. At that time, he was like the king of cosmetic dentistry. He had a boutique practice in New York, and he was a very brilliant communicator, but a brilliant clinician as well. So he instilled the passion into us. We did various different courses with him in America, and then became accomplished in this art of doing ceramic dentistry. And then since then, I've surrounded myself with the best mentors. Galip Kurel is one of them. He's in Istanbul. So so I've learned from the top people. And in dentistry, you want something that's long-lasting and that's good. So composite is a good start. If you've got a younger patient, then you can do composite, but there are certain limitations with composite. It's a resin-based, and depending on the patient's diet, if they're smoking more, or if they're having a lot of turmeric in their diet, or lots of tea and coffee, those composite veneers, guys, will not look so hot after 4 or 5 years, okay? You get staining, you get little chips, they'll look matte looking, they need more maintenance. So Whereas porcelain, I've been tracking my cases for 20 years now. So I've got patients who they're really long lasting. Galip Gurel himself, there's a lot of research. He did a study in 2013 to show that if porcelain is bonded to enamel, it's got 98% success rate after 12 years. So that's like phenomenal,
It's amazing.
So it's the most beautiful aesthetic result you can get that's closest to nature. And these days with people wanting whiter smiles because of peer pressure and social media, then teeth whitening alone may not get you to that point. So in essence, to do composite, you have to be master in your hands because you're the dentist, and through your loops, every little fleck of dust, and you'll see everything. So it's more intricate work. Whereas with ceramic dentistry, you're relying on a top technician to create beautiful work, and it takes more visits. But it's something that I'm passionate about, and something, as you said, I'm well known for. So they're the courses I do, and hand in hand with occlusion, then you get good successful results. Yeah.
I think we're going to go into the courses as well, but one thing I wanted to touch on, because you mentioned earlier as well about the importance of a very good lab, right? Because with ceramics, it's one of the only, well, with prosthodontics and ceramics, it's that area of dentistry where you don't have full control, where it's not all in your hands, it's not all about your skills. What are some top tips that you'd give to young dentists starting out in ceramics and building up that relationship with the lab, how to look for good lab tech, all those topics?
Sure. So I think shade matching is important. So if you've got a brilliant lab that's not a million miles from you, that's going to help. Because the odd times if you're doing a single tooth or someone who's really fussy, you're going to need to get the ceramist to actually take the shade. All right. So that's one thing to think about. The second thing is the reputation and skill of the ceramist technician. So my quest was always to work with the best. So there's a gentleman called Rob Storer who I've worked. He's just recently retired, but I've been working with him as my ceramist for over 20 years. And many years ago when I was studying with Larry, I turned to this guy, Rob, and I said, Rob, at that time, one of the best ceramists in the world was a guy called Jason Kim in New York. I said, Rob, I want you to go and learn from Jason Kim. So he looked at me and I said, Ash, what are you talking about? I've been doing this for 25 years. I know what to do. I said, no. I said, if we're going to work together, we need to play a game differently. You need to go to New York. So he reluctantly went, and he came back, and that was a turning point in his life.
Wow.
So no matter where you are in life, guys, you can always get better. Yeah. So year by year, we just had a quest to create the most beautiful smiles. And there's a lot of communication protocols, like when you do veneer preps, then you do a trial smile review 2 days later. That's a 45-minute session, and we're like a 2-page checklist of everything you go through: shape, color, luster, texture, the embrasures, the angulation of the teeth, occlusion. So when you start dealing with the trial smile properly and getting it right so that the patient gives you 10 out of 10 at the temporary stage, then as the Americans say, it's a slam dunk when the real thing comes, okay?
Yes.
So do really good diagnostics, do really good preps, do really good trial smiles, and then naturally the lab work becomes good.
You mentioned one thing that overarches all that as well, which is protocols, right?
Yes.
What are protocols and why are they important?
Protocols systemize things. Okay, so for example, if you have a Michelin star chef and he's going to make you an amazing dish, I bet you he'll be doing things in a set way, right? The way the temperature will go up to a certain point, first ingredients go in, the way he garnishes it, the way he dresses it, everything step by step to do it properly. So similar thing in cosmetic dentistry or even composite bonding, whatever you do. If you follow all the rules and the steps properly and take your time, don't rush things. If someone's paying £1,000 a tooth, there's no rush. Take your time, do the most amazing job you can so you feel proud of what you've created and the patient will feel so happy. So take your time, protocols, but the thing is you need to know what the protocols are. So if you suddenly want to get into implants and you think you watch some webinars and you're ready to dive into, you don't really know the protocols. Whereas the guy that used to place eye implants, he ain't done 10,000 implants. He'll know what the protocols are in every situation. Do you understand? So it's a good concept, protocols, and you've got to start learning somewhere, I guess. But go on the right course, learn things properly, and then start experimenting and doing it. The biggest way you can make progress is start doing cases. There's some dentists I know, they're course junkies, they keep going on courses and they just never play the game, and then you won't enjoy the fruit. If you don't do it, you're not going to enjoy the fruit.
Throughout the whole conversation, a really big thing has been, I've learned from this person, they went to learn from this person, the best, getting mentors and all this. And I mean, it's no doubt that within dentistry as a whole, postgraduate education and education as a whole is really, it's a career of continuous learning.
Yeah.
We put that in our personal statements when we're in year 12 or year 13 to get into dental school. But from your perspective then, looking at so many students who've gone through, for example, your veneers course, talk to us more about that, like getting from, A to B as a good clinician to an excellent clinician, and how do you actually train someone up to get to that level?
Okay, let's look at Porcelain and veneers, for example. Over the 2.5 decades, I've invested nearly £250,000 in my own postgraduate training. Okay? Having done that, then you got to understand I've learned from the best in the world, in the business side of dentistry, the clinical side of dentistry, the whole thing put together. So now I've created a Veneers by Ash 2-day course, which is really popular. I do 3 times a year in London, and it's the A to Z of learning everything you want from veneers. And for me, it's humbling. This year, I've had dentists come from Bahrain, the guy came from South Africa. On the one I've just done in June, someone came from Ethiopia. So God knows how they're hearing about this, but but it's starting to happen. So the point is you can try and reinvent the wheel, or you can try and learn from someone who really knows what they're doing, copy and just get on with it. Now, why would you want to try and be smart and reinvent the wheel when someone's been doing for 25, 30 years and has done thousands of them successfully? That's the question I throw back at you. So it's all based on scientific evidence, hands-on. Dentists love hands-on training. I could sit here and give you a webinar or a lecture for an hour. If I sit down and say, okay, let's prep these 8 veneers together, you're going to enjoy that bit more than anything, and the experiential learning is much more powerful. So that's what I'm well known for. It's not only just the clinical side of teaching the theory, but the fact that I do hands-on training. So in the Veneers by Ash course, the 2-day course, there's a lot of hands-on elements. Yeah. And then dentists from there that want to really up their game tend to come on my signature 8-day course. And this is where you treat a patient live under my supervision. And the inner fulfillment you're going to get having accomplished a 8 to 10 unit smile makeover to the highest standard possible when you're a young dentist is going to be like taking you to a new level very fast.
Nice. And from that then, as a clinician, so as a young dentist, you've been exposed to this world of courses, and there's Veneers by Ash and there's other courses as well. I mean, what's a protocol that you'd give to a young dentist going on these courses, making the most of them? Obviously, you said about implementing stuff afterwards. What should they go in with the mindset of, and how do they ensure not only that they're finding the best mentor, but that they can be the best mentee as well?
Good question. 2 or 3 things. Firstly, you got to invest in yourself. Okay, you got to be prepared to spend a certain amount per annum on your postgraduate activity, whether it's UK or you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to go to the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry as well, turn it into a holiday, spend 4 or 5 days in Florida and learn stuff as well. Got it? The second thing is work hard. You got to really put the effort into reading the right books, watching a few YouTube things, whatever, and really embracing the concept. The third thing is practice. So if you had your first 8-unit veneer prep, make sure you prep it on a model first. And if I'm helping you or mentoring you, then use WhatsApp me the pictures and we'll have a chat one evening. I'll say, okay, do it this way, this way, this way. This is very good, but let's sharpen up on this thing, So use your lab as well. An experienced ceramics technician is an asset for a young dentist. Let's just say you've done your veneer preps. You take a 3D scan, right? You send it to your lab. Within minutes, he'll have that information. You can have a private phone call whilst your patient's having a little break. You can take a couple of pictures of the preps, WhatsApp it to him, and he'll say, this is perfect, Effie, but just go back and do this, this, and this, smooth that one down, then start taking impressions and records. Do you understand? So it's just having a mindset to know that there's people that can help you, whether it's your mentor as a teacher, whether it's your lab technician, and you're not there on your own. Because that feeling of being on your own is just the tough thing, It's scary. I mean, anything you have to do new, and if you're left on your own, you're going to be scared.
Understood. So, of course, Ash, having been in the industry for over 30 years, you've seen lots of innovation throughout that time, right? What do you think now, in our current point in 2025, the next big things are in clinical innovation in dentistry?
Yeah, I mean, digital dentistry is a big thing right now, okay? We're using 3D scanners and, this is so quick and easy. and the accuracy level is phenomenal. Then when you get the crowns and veneers and things fit back, and you talked about labs earlier on. I mean, you know, I could send stuff to Dubai now, and the work is so high quality, and it's just because I'm scanning. You know, if I go, so the speed, efficiency, and accuracy is improved because of digital dentistry. The digital also helps with planning. I mean, if you're doing implant planning, or you got a wisdom tooth near the ID nerve, you take a 3D scan, and so you take a CT scan and then analyze things carefully. So CT scanning, 3D scanning, all this is useful for dentists. I mentioned T-scan earlier on, which you talked about, which again should be a bigger thing, but it's not at the moment. The other thing I like is lasers. So dental lasers have got multiple applications for soft tissue changes. You can do crown lengthening and remove bone. You can, as a cosmetic dentistry, in cosmetic dentistry, there are three important things. You have nice lips, nice teeth, and even gum lines. So unless you embrace lasers, how are you going to make the tissue changes? You're not going to cut with a burr. You're not going to cut with a scalpel. You know, so dentists have to have a broader view that to get the most beautiful smiles, you have to use the technology. So yeah, and I think AI is a big thing right now. It's really exciting where this is going to take us. Practical applications right now would be your note making can be made faster. Maybe your treatment planning aid and protocols will become significantly enhanced once AI kicks in. Your ability to make reports and things will be fast and efficient for patients. So, you know, technology has got its benefits, and this is exciting for all of us as dentists.
Very interesting. A couple of things to pick up on before we go into more of the holistic side of well-being. Yeah. Firstly, you mentioned a 20-page plus document that you do an hour and a half consultation, right?
Yes, yes.
What really goes into that, and what makes it last that long, firstly?
Okay, good. First initial interview. Like I said to you, you come to me, I'll have that initial chat, I want to get to know you, all right? Next, I'll take a OPG, like a panoramic X-ray, and then I'll have a quick glance, I'll know immediately, wow, there's some problems here, there. I'll take 2 bite rings, I'll take all the relevant periapicals, okay? All that's done. You can then take your 3D scans, so take the scans, then you have a chat, bit of co-discovery, okay? And then you take photographs, full series of photographs. You can take a short video on your iPhone to record the way they speak, talk, all this stuff. And then you can take your T-scan initial bite analysis if I want to look at things digitally, okay? So then I move on to my document. So I'll call out the charting. We record on Software of Excellence or whatever computer system you got, all the teeth and fillings and what's there. You'll do an oral cancer screen. You'll do a periodontal analysis. You know, you might have to do 6-point pocket charting, right? So then you'll do the full cosmetic analysis. So of the 25 page, 5 or 6 pages are literally analyzing the smile. All the different parameters, the gingival height, the golden proportion. There's so much to it.
Talk a bit about that, Ash, because I also want to understand the holistic approach you take towards not just the teeth, but the whole mouth and smile and actual facing as a whole, right?
Yes.
What goes into that high-end cosmetic treatment beyond just the shape of teeth?
So I see myself as an artist rather than a dentist. So it starts with the face. So you will see, okay, so the way I create a man's smile or a woman's smile will be slightly different. It's the edges will be slightly different, the embrasures, slightly softer for women, you know? So even teeth, for example, a simple thing like the angulation. If the teeth are slightly forward, they're the most attractive smiles because the way light hits it and goes back is going to make it look better, right? So you need a detailed checklist so that you don't make mistakes. So for example, if you're flying a plane, right? So this pilot with the 4 stripes on his side, right? He's got 400 people in the back and he's about to take off. You not think that a serious checklist would have happened before he puts the throttle and goes forward?
Perhaps.
Right? I'm sure. So similarly, when you're about to take a 10,000 pound smile makeover case, you need a very detailed proper checklist. Now the biggest benefit of this, Hafi, is that what happens is that the patient perceives you as being absolutely knowledgeable, skilled and experienced. Because the experience they've just had, the way you've checked them through and the examination they've never had done before. And that creates a lot of trust in the patient. Yes. And when there's trust, the case acceptance will be high. Because honestly, if someone analyzes things for me that way, whether I need a knee replacement or heart thing for my family member or something, I'm going to be looking how thorough or good is this guy in the diagnostics. And the better they are at that, the more confidence I'll have that I should go with this
So
person.
it's an indicator for long-term success, right?
So that 25-page document is the best thing I can teach a young dentist
Okay.
to become really successful, because it's going to give you an amazing foundation to become strong in your entire career going forward.
Understood. And Ash, as someone who's been around the greats, as you call them, right, for so many years, what would you say, just as a bit of an aside, is the most complex case you've seen across all your years of experience? The most high-value treatment package that's been offered that you come across?
Okay, so the highest value treatment plans I've done is around about 50,000 mark. This is when someone's edentulous and choose not to wear dentures and choose not to have, let's say, 4 implants and a bar supported over denture. They may need sinus grafting to augment bone. They may need then 6 to 8 implants per arch. You then make transitional bridges supported on implants. You then aesthetically and occlusally get those correctly balanced. And then once they're steady and happy, then you move on with the final prosthesis. So all this takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. There's a lot of lab fees. So people doing implants, you earn a lot of money, but the costs are high, guys. Okay, so the expenses are high, so profit is not as much. But the answer to your question is, yeah, complex wear cases where teeth are all over the place are more challenging to treat, or someone with no teeth and really need more bone added, and then you move on and restore. That's also challenging.
So that kind of goes to show the high level levels you can almost reach with that clinical competency over decades, right?
Yes.
Just off the back of that, then Ash, what about the highest ticket case you actually heard of as a clinician being done?
Look, I've not done research into this, but I don't know, 50 plus, whatever. But
Okay.
but I've not heard of anyone more than that. But I'm sure it depends what your per unit fee is, right? There are dentists in Harley Street that may be charging, I don't know, it's £1,800 a crown or veneer. Then obviously their value of that treatment plan will be a lot higher, although they're doing the same thing as I'm doing.
So of course the money should not be motivated, but that kind of
No.
goes to show the value you can actually give, that someone recognises that and decides to go ahead with it, right?
I want to ask a question here, because
Yeah.
this is, I feel like, something that a lot of young dentists might struggle with.
Uh-huh.
They've just come out of university,
Yes.
they've still got some sense of imposter syndrome or whatever it is. They know that they're clinically competent. How do they then price their value, and how do they actually maintain that? Like, how do they know what to price their own value at?
Good question. I think initially they're going to be dictated by what the practice offers. You just joined a foundation year, or you're a new young dentist in some corporate or something. If your boss is charging $650 for a crown or whatever, and you think you're going to charge $900, it's not going to work, right? So I think you've got to walk before you run. All right. So if you got an NHS mentality and you think you're just going to spend a little bit longer and just charge a lot more, people will see through that. We all have a sixth sense. When you're a customer and you're buying something, you know if you're being conned or if this is not authentic. Everyone will suss that out very, very quickly. So for example, with me, when I first started 30 years ago, we used to charge about, I don't know, 300 or 350 for a crown or veneer. As you did more courses, you develop more confidence, we went up bit by bit. Then you suddenly start using better labs. Then you think, okay, you know what, this is costing me more, so I need to add that to the patient's bill. I think that the most difficult thing for me was when I had to go over the £1,000 mark for a crown or veneer. Psychologically, that's the difficult one. We were 995, we built up all these years, and then that was it. And then we went straight up to 1095, and after that, it was fine. We didn't have any problems. But there's certain prices which are difficult ones to think about.
I think it always comes down to what you were saying before as well. I mean, if you're ethically selling and the need is there, and you walk them through everything, then if it makes sense for the patient, if your skills are up to scratch as well, then actually presenting the treatment plan, because we talked about building the treatment plan, we talked about the pre-discovery, the pre-sales phase or the co-discovery. Then when it comes to that stage where you're actually, presenting this plan, maybe it's a young dentist who's just started charging a bit more, they're a bit nervous.
Yes.
Like, what is that like?
Okay, very good question, and you need to do it this way. You first meet the patient, get to know them, follow that 6-step process I said, do the examination assessment protocol, and then you say to the patient, you know what I need to do now is I need the models to come back from the lab, I need to sit down on my own, plan this all out properly. So I'd love to invite you back for an options meeting, complimentary meeting, about in a week's time. Leave it no more than a week. In that week, that buys you time. So what you then do is you sit down for 45 minutes to an hour on your own, do your radiographic analysis, photographic assessment, scans, everything, look at the models properly, and then come up with the ideal treatment plan, knowing what the patient's budget was. So at the end of the assessment, do not let the patient go home without knowing what's their budget. So for example, if someone's got a £10,000 treatment plan, but they only had £4,000 to pay, that's how much they saved towards their dental care. The next qualifying question you ask them is, what is your monthly affordability if we could finance the rest? If we could take care of it even with an interest-free loan, would that be of interest to you? Oh sure, I could do that. How much can you afford a month? I could do $250 a month. Now they've given you the permission to charge $4,000, finance the rest, and make it affordable, and they go ahead with the treatment. So knowing what their budget was, you then make a treatment plan, and then what I do is I create a PowerPoint. I'll have pictures of the patients before, touching on all the pain points. So if they're not happy with their smile, you pick the ugliest looking smile or pose that they gave you and all the problems that they show. Yes, you keep focusing on that, right? And then, so you show them what their problems are first in the sequence of pictures. Keep it very simple, not too much wording, just pictures. And then you give them the solutions in a staged manner. Let's deal with the gum health. Let's do these few fillings that need doing. Then we do some teeth whitening on the lower teeth. Then you know what, you've got two options. You can do composite bonding, or you can do porcelain veneers. These are the fees. And is there anything else that's stopping you going ahead with this? And if there's nothing else there was no other objection, then the only thing left to do now to deal with is the financial aspect before they close the deal and move on. So the big tip is, don't rush and try and want to tell them there and then at the end of the examination, this is what you need. Right? If it's a simple case, they just need a couple of fillings and whitening and one hygienist, that's it. Finish it. You don't need to call them back. But if you need to plan it, call them back in a week's time. And more importantly, let them come with the decision maker. So if it's a female patient and the husband was paying, you're not going anywhere until the husband turns up with the wife as well. Do you understand? So it's important to be the decision maker, and you have a consultation room, ideally like this, not the clinical room, where you just sit down, have a screen there, you present the case, discuss these things, your treatment coordinator will be with you here, and once they've accepted, you walk out, and the treatment coordinator steps in and literally does all the consenting process, the financial arrangements, and booking the appointments.
Two things there. One, why would you leave it maximum a week? You said maximum a week?
Right. People have certain amount of disposable income, and for example, if a woman's thinking of doing her smile or buying a kitchen, and you're too slow in forming your plans and leave it a month, she'd have gone and spend the money on the kitchen and not going to go with the teeth.
Yeah.
That's the main reason.
Okay, nice. And the second question is, so you leave the room when, if I remember correctly, you'd come in, you explain a bit more, you leave the room and the treatment coordinator comes in. What's the psychology behind that? Because I realize everything is very intentional.
The treatment coordinator is, I think, the pivotal role in any private dental practice, period. Okay? So each dentist has got an hourly rate. So whether you're worth £200 an hour, 300, 400, 500 pound, it doesn't really matter. Okay? So what you got to think as a business person, if you're an associate or a principal running a practice, do I want to be talking at £400 an hour, or can I have a highly trained young lady who's very good with communication, who's been trained by a really good coach on treatment coordination, even if you pay them £25 an hour? You now answer that question. What's more effective? So you have a really well-trained team member to be like your right-hand person. The second advantage is that this second treatment coordinator, the person that's actually wrapping up the case, they can big me up. For me, if I'm being humble, I can't say, oh, I've been on TV and Extreme Makeover and all this stuff. Whereas if she says, you know what, he's really good, he's done my veneers, look at this, he won't hurt you. Any other remaining questions or objections the patient had, she'll deal with it beautifully better than I will and wrap it up. So there are many advantages actually.
Oh, cool. That's another perspective I hadn't really thought of before as well. Cool. So Ash, you've spoken very deeply about clinical practice and how to become a good dentist. But I think there's more than just clinical dentistry. And even if you look at the whole mouth, there's more to it than what you see in front of your eyes. What can you do to ensure you have a holistic success as a dentist? And what goes into being a dentist with that longevity that lasts 30, 35 years?
Yeah, this is really important. What I'm seeing sometimes with younger dentists is that they want to work 6 days a week and they want to earn a lot of money. Fine. all that's going to happen, guys, is you're going to burn out. Okay, so dentistry is a relatively tough profession. Okay, the way you posture, all this stuff, the stresses of handling people, things going wrong. So for me, it's a very holistic approach. So I get up early in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and I do my meditation for 1.5 to 2 hours. Then I'll make my smoothie, salad, whatever. I'll then go to the gym. I'll either do gym, tennis, or swimming, whatever. Then the David Lloyd near us has got an amazing spa, so I'll relax for 20 minutes. I'll turn left, and I'm at the practice in 2 minutes. So when I get to the practice, I'm relaxed, I'm refreshed, I'm mentally, spiritually stimulated, and physically I've done my exercise. So my energy levels are high for the whole day. So I think eating healthily, I mean, I'm vegetarian, so I'm not going to have a debate about meat and vegetarian food. But if you eat healthily and don't eat rubbish and drink a lot of water, try and avoid alcohol, you're going to be looking after your body. You need to do physical exercise and things you enjoy, like tennis or whatever you want to do, and feel in good shape. Then finding time for inner peace and leaving your phone and not focusing on your phone too much and social media and stuff is important. And whatever gives you peace, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditation and sitting quietly, whether like I chant on my beads, that's whatever is important for you, you can do, and it just gives you more clarity of thought. And these things, I believe, will make you more successful than just working. Bill Blatchford, my coach, told me once, don't just work in the business, also work on the business. And therefore, it's better to work about 4 days a week clinically. So I'd take 1 day off in the week. Like for me, Thursday is my day off. I'll go and have a nice round of golf, and I'll have some business meetings, do what else I want. Maybe the odd treatment planning has to be done, but it's really me time. And then the weekend, keep it clear for your family and other things you want to pursue. Because otherwise, years go by, decades go by, you don't even see your kids grow up, and you may then have regrets later on in life. I wish I'd done this, or I wish, money is not the most important thing. It is important, but it's not the most important.
Is that something you had to learn the hard way?
Partly, yes. Yeah. So in the formative years, you see, I'm very driven. So for me, success is important, and getting to the pinnacle of the profession is important, and in a humble way. But I remember when our kids were young, sometimes, you do your best for them. You want to send them to private schools or whatever. But so my wife, she's been sometimes the mother and the father. And if I could turn the clock back, then I think I should have had more balance and not worked as hard, maybe, so partly that.
And this is, Ash, you also mentioned this spirituality, right? How important is that to you, and how do you personally get your spiritual authority from almost?
I'm 56 now, and going forward now, spirituality is becoming a very important part of my life. So this is non-sectarian, not religious, it's philosophy. I think when you begin to understand that each one of us has a soul, and the innate nature of the soul is to be compassionate and to receive and to offer love, then it changes your lens or your frame you come from. So for me, even new patients now, I try and connect on a soul level. Forget about all this 6-step process. I'm going deeper into how I actually do my new patient interviews now. So I personally follow Krishna consciousness, and there's a monk that I admire a lot. His name is Keshav Swami. So keshavswami.com if you want to check it out. These are one of the most important people on the planet for me. He's 42 years old. He's now traveling the world and sharing wisdom. So our ancient wisdom gives you solutions to problems in the life today currently. So for me, looking at this old text and understanding it and having it taught properly, and then practically applying in modern day living what you learn in this wisdom is very important. It's no good just reading something. It's how do you apply it in your relationships, with your family, with your spouse, with your patients in your team. How do you conduct yourself? What are the qualities of a good person? And then also asking existential questions like, what is the purpose of life? Why am I now here? What is going to happen after death? It's a unique situation to come as a human being, and we can either waste it or you can actually do something special about it. So for me, spirituality is very important, and transcending or helping dentists to this highest level is now my quest going forward. I can help them, teach them the strategy and how to do things. That's only the 20% of it. 80% is the mindset stuff. And that's what's really interesting me now going forward. How can I use my 35 years of experience and forget the dentist mentors. I've been in so many other courses like Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within, I've done 3 times, all the Wealth Mastery courses, Landmark Forum. So I've had so many other influences that have shaped me up the way I've come, as well as the love and the support from my family. And now, to try and give the benefit of this knowledge, which is non-dental, is going to be important.
Very interesting. So Ash, off the back of that and to round off the conversation, we've spoken about clinical practice, your early years, your thoughts on spirituality. What does success mean to you?
Success, I think, means finding inner happiness. People think that things bring happiness. You may have a beautiful fast car, you may drink alcohol, you may have drugs, you may have lots of women in your life. These are temporary bits of happiness. It'll be there and it'll be gone. Okay? So for me, service is important. So what I enjoy is when I see others become successful, that gives me happiness. One example, there's a dentist that came on my 2-day course, then the 8-day course, and I was really intrigued by this guy. Before he came on my courses, he had done 500 odd wear cases, 1,000 smile makeover cases, and thousands of implants. And he wants to come on my 2 days veneers by Ash course. So I phoned him up and I said, look, tell me, why are you coming on this course? He said, look, Ash, I'm really interested in your spiritual side of your way and how you integrate that with clinical practice. I said, fine, amazing, come. Mm-hmm. He's become a good friend of mine now, and I've done some coaching for him. And recently I just went to interview him to see the progress he's making. In 1.5 years, his personal turnover has gone up by 1.4 million. Now put the financial thing aside for a minute. What's really important is that he's a very spiritual person. And we've connected on a different way. It's just not true. So for me, making friendships and having peers like these is really fulfilling and really enriching. It's the people you surround yourself with, and those are going to give you the energy. You share with them, and then you learn from them as well.
Understood. People of depth, people of substance, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure, Ash.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
That was amazing, Ash. That was actually one of our longest interviews so far. So incredible work.
Good.
Let's get that thing filmed.
Okay?
Let's get that thing filmed for the.
You happy?
Yes,
brilliant.
yeah, brilliant.
How did you find it?
Good. Yeah. No, we flowed really nicely.
Yeah.
You both made me feel alright. No tough questions.
Good.